tried as adults whenever they commit some serious or heinous crime, because, Honorable Speaker, ma'am, age never defines or justifies crime. These criminals do not wake up one morning and decide to rape or kill. These criminals even think these kind of stuff subconsciously. A report uploaded by the Israel's government in 1990, the crime murders committed by the youth and juveniles is 13,987, and after they started prosecuting juveniles and kids, it's 567 a year. Israel is the only country that automatically prosecutes children in military courts, which is highly appreciated by the government of the United States in 2018. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, in the other hand, the then Prime Minister in 1980s, Margaret Thatcher of United Kingdom, stated the advantages of juvenile should be tried and treated as adults, which she delivered in the House of Commons, which I would like to quote are, it eliminates the juvenile threshold for consequences associated with severe crime. It provides consistent structure within the justice system. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, according to me, the purpose of trying juveniles as adults is to impose harsher sentences, hoping the fear of the shorter sentences will make youngsters think twice or committing their crimes. I am concluding my words by quoting the writings of Harvansh Rai Bachchan. न्याय में बच्चों के लिए इतनी भी छूट नहीं होनी चाहिए कि वह अन्याय लगने लगे. Thank you and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Tonmer, for the introduction as well as your speech. That was really wonderful. The next participant we have is Pratyasha Fugan from Dikho House, and she'll be speaking against the motion. Pratyasha, you may take over and your time starts now.
So I'm Pratyasha here to share my views against the motion. So with great vigor, according to me, juveniles should not be tried and treated as adults. So at the outset, it is considered that a child is fragile, both physically and mentally, which is one of the foremost reasons for not trying and treating a juvenile as an adult. For creating a separate category for them, it was observed that the principal factors which differentiated juveniles from adults were like mental maturity, greater susceptibility to surrounding influences, and high plausibility to reform. So these are minors who, according to most legal systems, are below the legal alcohol consumption age, can't drive or get married in a certain age. So sometimes juveniles commit crimes out of ignorance or peer pressure, and trying and treating them as adults could damage their future because they'll have criminal records. So juveniles should not be treated differently because due to two reasons. Number one, children cannot intentionally commit a crime because psychologically they aren't developed enough to distinguish between right and wrong. And number two, trying juveniles as criminal affects their psyche. Instead, they should be rehabilitated and counseled. And I would like to share a few points about disadvantages of juveniles being tried as adults. Like number one, juveniles become subject to most adult penalties. And secondly, juveniles is in adult court may not receive a full jury trial. Thirdly, adult court doesn't take into account the maturity of the child. And lastly, I would like to say it's more difficult to seal an adult criminal record than juvenile one. So I would like to conclude my speech by saying that teens and youths are being given more chances to get out from behind bars later in life to create something for themselves. So we must still keep young people away from adult offenders to reduce recidivism rates. And if we continue to look at this justice structure, then we can find more ways to help everyone involved with it. Responsible people should help them realize their faults and encourage them to overcome their flaws. Juveniles have a right to future, and therefore they should be given a chance to learn from mistakes. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratyasha. Those were some quite strong points. So the next speaker we have is Dolly Agarwala from Lewitt House, and she'll be speaking for the motion. Dolly, you may start and your time starts now.
If you're old enough to cross the street, you're old enough to get hit. Likewise, if you're old enough to do the crime, you're old enough to do the time. Many think that the crime committed by juveniles should be ignored as they are underage. But if the same crime is being committed by an adult, action should be taken against it. This is something very unfair. Here, age is the only matter of difference, but the crime committed is same. If this is the case, it cannot be called justice in real terms. People often speak about justice delayed is justice denied. But in this case, justice is not being done. So there is no point of delaying. From very beginning, every child is taught the difference between what is right and what is wrong, both by teachers and parents. If parents can teach children what to eat with a spoon and what with a fork, they can definitely teach them what is good and what is bad. Most of you may not have heard the names of Cindy Collier and Shirley Wolf. They were killers. Right, child killers. They were very different from each other. The only thing they had in common aside from bloodlust was troubled childhood. When they met, they instantly connected and became friends. Collier and Wolf once were chatting up an 85-year-old woman and ended up stabbing her just out of curiosity. The most horrific thing is that they had no regret. Wolf in her journal even wrote, "Today I and Cindy killed an old lady. It was fun." So I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, should we leave these kids roaming on the streets with no consequences for their action? Should they just live their life freely while destroying others? Should we? I strongly believe that punishment should be given to the one who commits a crime irrespective of their age. If they know to commit a crime, they should also know the consequence of it. If a person can be taught to hate, the person can also be taught to love. Similarly, if a minor can be taught to commit a crime, they can also be taught the consequences, and they must remember that at last they will be the one who will suffer. And this is actually what is called justice. I'd like to conclude saying that juveniles should be tried and treated like adults. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. That was quite a well-timed speech. Next, we have Aditya Parikh from Dhansri House, and he'll be speaking against the motion. Aditya, your time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be speaking against the motion. Grown enough to commit a crime, adult enough to do time is a common phrase utilized by people mainly when they simplify the issue of young criminals treated of the adult justice system. In the US, about 250,000 youths face prosecution yearly in the adult criminal system. The move arises due to the belief that the serious crimes they commit, such as rape, kidnapping, robbery, murder, and drug crimes, qualify their treatment as adults. Adolescence is an age when the development of a human categorized by the different changes among them, the evolution of the character is one. These changes point to the fact that one's behavior or actions do not dictate their future. They reflect the environment they grow up in, and their lack of maturity, and in my opinion, shows they do not deserve similar treatment to adults. Punishment is a failed strategy for changing behaviors, teaching new skills, or developing new and more positive attitudes and beliefs. It is wrong to hold children and adolescents who have not reached legal age to the adult standards. In other areas of law, we recognize the differences between children and adults. Children are not permitted the same rights and responsibilities as adults. For example, voting, driving, and joining the military, because we recognize their inability to make adult decisions. Why don't we recognize the same difference in the criminal law? Recent research demonstrates that transferring children from juvenile court to adult courts does not decrease recidivism and in fact actually increases crime. Children are uniquely positioned to reform and redemption. Juvenile detention facilities generally have the programs in place to aid that in process of reformation. Prisons do not. With appropriate treatment, most children who commit crimes, even the most violent crimes, can be rehabilitated and become responsible adults. Precisely because their brains are still changing. The psychological part of the brain, which regulates aggression, long range planning, mental flexibility, abstract thinking, and perhaps moral judgment, has not developed in children. Adult time for adult crime may be a catchy phrase, but it reflects a poor understanding of criminal justice principles. With this, I would like to end my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. So the next speaker we have for today is Haridra Bora from Dihing House, and she'll be speaking for the motion. Haridra, you may have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Year 2012. Who has forgotten the unfortunate event that occurred on the chilly night of 16 December 2012, the rape and murder of Jyoti Singh? One of the 6 convicts that were taken into church was a minor, and he was a juvenile, but he was one of the most brutal. My fellow warrior opponents have told us that the juveniles are not sane enough to differentiate between right and wrong. But do you think this is justice, the prevalence of justice? Definitely no. Future of the minor is important, but what about the future of the victims that have already passed? Do we need to take account of the future of the victims? Do we need to take account that justice has prevailed for the victims who were raped and murdered by juveniles? Our juvenile justice system focuses on reformative justice, but one of the loopholes in the system is that, as shown by the National Crime Record Bureau. In 2019, the NCRB showed that 24% rise in murder committed by juveniles was seen in Delhi alone. But it is a pity that most of my worthy opponents haven't looked into the causes that force the juveniles to act in such heinous crime. A report of the United Nations has shown that most of the juvenile crimes are conducted by minors who are from a who have suffered poverty, homelessness, and do not get the enough support that they deserve. So we need to focus both on the measures and both on the causes that will help us to reduce the crime rate in juveniles. There is a very good saying that precaution is better than cure. Then why are we waiting to punish a person after he has committed a crime? Why not take the measures beforehand? And these measures should be taken at the micro and macro level immediately before a crime is conducted. In the end, I would like to say what William Payne has rightly cited. Right is right, even if everyone is against it, and wrong is wrong, even if everyone is for it. The same case goes with crime. A crime is a crime, no matter who has done it. And if we allow juveniles to go free, we are just doing injustice to the family of the victims. So take a moment and think for a while. When you think logically, the answer is always correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Haritra. Those were some quite good quotes. So the next speaker we have is Priyampoli Saikya from Lewis House, and she will be speaking against the motion. Priyampoli, your time starts now.
Good afternoon, respected Speaker, ma'am, and the members of the jury. UN Convention on the Rights of the Child has stated that state parties recognize the right of every child alleged as, accused of, or recognized as having infringed the penal law to be treated in a manner consistent with the promotion of the child's sense of dignity and worth, which reinforces the child's respect for the human rights and fundamental freedom of others, and which takes into account the child's age and promoting the child's reintegration and the child's constructive role in the society. This emphasizes that children should be diverted away from the judicial proceedings whenever possible and should be redirected to community support devices. Respected Speaker, ma'am, I would like to begin by saying that our juveniles should be treated differently because, as we all know, that mentally and physically they are not strong enough to handle the consequences of being sent to an adult prison. As the members of my opposition team has highlighted that as to why juveniles should be treated and tried as adults, I would however like to believe otherwise. There is a strong and a valid reason as to why the teenagers are referred to as juveniles and why the entire legal system, probably the world over, have separate juvenile detention centers and adult prison. Trying juveniles as criminals affects their psyche. Instead, they should be rehabilitated and counseled. Imagine a child sent to jail trying to shoplift from a shop, knowing the consequences of putting them with adults who are highly dangerous. Having them sent to a jail which they are mentally not capable of handling may lead to even further damage. Once a juvenile is sent to prison, the actions may become a permanent record, and this will prevent them from making even necessary changes in their lives. According to the statistics gathered from 15 different states in the US, juveniles prosecuted in adult court and released from prison had a recidivism rate of 82% as compared to a rate of 16% for the adult counterpart. In my conclusion, I'd like to say that in the long run, juvenile prosecution will only cause damage to a juvenile's life when they could have turned these misfortunes around. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyampoli. Those were some quite interesting data. So the next speaker we have is Vasundhara Dev from Dhansri House, and she will be speaking for the motion.
What is the purpose of the whole justice system? Starting off with a very personal statement here. Being a 16-year-old myself, I firmly believe that we're all mature enough to know the difference between what's right and what's not. So the whole reason for not trying juveniles as adults just because they don't have authority and understanding to form decision is baseless. Juveniles are sane enough to differentiate between good and bad. Therefore, children can commit crimes as they've decided to choose the wrong path. In many cases, the rate of arrest of juveniles is higher than those of adults. We've only seen juvenile crimes increase over the years, and the solution to this, my friends, is to try them with no mercy. Adult time for adult crime. Harsh but true. Until 2014, the entire premise of the juvenile justice system was that a child does not have proper understanding and often fails to make the right decision and be punished as adults. Put this conversely. If a child has committed the crime, then he must be knowing the consequences of his or her actions and therefore must be punished as an adult. According to a report by the Office of Justice Program, the number of juvenile arrests made in 2012 was over 1 million, which by the way is 37% less than the arrests made in 2003, all because of the fear of being punished as an adult with no mercy being instilled in them. Surprised? There's more. Juvenile crime hasn't stopped after 30 years. Also, the rate of racism of person and juvenile criminals is 88%, which clearly shows the effectiveness of the adult criminal justice system. The whole purpose of the justice system is to prevent the occurrence of the crime, to punish the transgressors, and also to deter the offenders from committing any kind of illegal activities in the future. I'll be leaving with you all with the question here. Does the juvenile justice system serve this purpose? Think for yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasundhara. That was quite of a speech. So the next speaker which we have is Naman Chaudhary from Dikho House, and he will be speaking against the motion.
What if a juvenile is sent to prison with adult criminal? There is a chance of the juvenile to be mentally and physically getting abused by the adult. Don't you think it may affect their brain? They would get mentally scared. How can we think to treat and try them as adults? They may get mentally scared and depressed, which may seriously damage their future. Can't we encourage them to not to commit such crimes again and focus on their study and career so their future becomes bright? Yes, we can, but the government wants to send them to jail, which I and my members don't support. I would like to say that as teenage is a time period where juvenile are not fully matured and may commit mistakes. For example, doing a mistake in writing an answer which is corrected by them after realizing their mistake. Like that only, we can ask them to choose the correct path and avoid the wrong path, which they choose to commit the crime before. And for all, the motion must fall.
Thank you, Naman. So the next speaker for today is Nabanshu Neer Gogoi, and he's from the House, and he'll be speaking for the motion. Nabanshu, you may take over.
Excuse me, just 1 second. Let me just get rid of all my technical difficulties.
Yes, sure. Just tell me when you're ready.
Yeah. So I have been allotted against the motion, right?
Sorry, Nabanshu, you are for the motion.
Okay, for the motion. Before I would actually make any statement regarding the debate, I would actually first make a very, very interesting notion. In fact, the art of debate, it should not be to reason morally. And since it's something related to life and obviously treating juveniles as adults, one must actually reason with intellect and therefore should have no compromises whatsoever in identifying a life as simply a state of existence. All right. So there should not be any morality involved. That is one important thing because the law does not identify. So a very warm good afternoon to the jury. I am here to propose my thoughts as to why juveniles should actually be treated as adults. In fact, if I were to point out, the United Nations has clearly stated that in their protection of juveniles deprived of their liberty, they've already stated that juveniles, unless they commit heinous crimes, they are only subject to imprisonment. All right? Sorry, I would retract my statement saying that they actually can have any life imprisonment or imprisonment provided that the condition is serious. So the opposition, in fact, is non-existent for this basic reason. This is a red herring, a logical fallacy that is proposed by the opposition that they should not be treated as adults. In fact, there have been reforms and measures taken all by the 193 countries of the United Nations to adopt legal policies for juveniles as according to the crime that they have committed. So trying to sweep in saying that people, or juveniles in this case, they have to be sent to the prison because this is an illegal act is morally and legally wrong. Forget about the morality over here. This logical fallacy is what is called as argument ad populum. This is in fact the logical fallacy that's assuming that it's appealing to the people just because it's morally wrong. But it's not. It's not morally wrong. And all right. With this, I would like to conclude my statement.
Thank you, Ramanshu. That was quite an interesting speech. So next we have Jennifer Yamin Pasha from the co-house, and she'll be speaking against the motion. Jennifer, you may take over.
Good afternoon. Today I stand before you to speak against the motion. I strongly believe that juveniles should not be treated as adults because and men
trying to connect. If my name is called out, ma'am, can you please wait because my net is not working right now. And this, ma'am, I'm trying hotspot. Okay, ma'am, it is.
Can I start over?
Sorry for the inconvenience, Jennifer. Your time will be started again, and you may start now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I stand before you to speak against the motion. I strongly believe that juveniles should not be treated as adults because they are physically and mentally much weaker than adults. Juveniles are not given the right to vote. They are not recruited in armed forces because they are immature. This shows that why suddenly can we consider them as adults, because we don't give them the rights if they are adults that we would need to give them. If juveniles are considered to be adults, they would be put in adult facilities where there's a higher chance of them developing new and dangerous crimes. So what are we doing? We are giving birth to new and violent criminals. That if juveniles are put together with dangerous adults, they may be physically and mentally sexually assaulted there. So what message do we give to our youth? That you have no life, that you have no hope, that no one's going to care because of the mistakes that you have done because of your ignorance. So let's talk about an incident from Britain. This is a 9-year-old woman, Angela Wrightson, was murdered by a 13 and 14-year-old girls. This is a very major case because both these girls belong from abusive families. From a very young age, both of these girls were given drugs and very strong alcohols by their own parents. How ridiculous is that? Can we imagine? And from a very early age, they had faced abuse, torture, violence, and family instability. So, and What is saddening and unfortunate is that they thought this was normal. So I would like to say in a nutshell that we need to examine juvenile cases very properly. We need to save our future. We need to save the youth of this country. Just punishing them is not the solution to this problem. But a chance of correction, a chance of realization can fetch us much higher prospects for this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. So the next speaker we have is S. Ilakia from Dhansri House, and she'll be speaking against the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, Ilakia.
Yeah. So, no one is born a criminal, but circumstances make him so. The socio-cultural environment, both inside and outside the house, plays a significant role in shaping one's life and overall personality. And if a child is born in slum area or poverty, is one of the biggest causes that force him to get into involving in criminal acts. And also, the role played by the social media today is having a more negative imprint than a positive imprint on the young minds. By letting them get away with the crimes they do, they rot this slowly and surely eroding this whole world. However, no matter how old one is, he should be given punishment, but they should also be given a second chance to learn from the mistakes. The reason why I'm emphasizing on the fact that juvenile crimes shouldn't be punished is because if we look at the countries where capital punishments or just general punishments being given to heinous crimes, for example, Singapore, it shows no evidence as a way to reduce the number of crimes in the future. And the logic behind fighting for strict punishments is to bring a fear in the minds of young minds, which will stop them from committing crimes in the future. But this also gives the criminals a no incentive to keep the victim alive. So, and also such reforms don't really make our country a mature democratic society, but rather takes turn to become authoritative in nature. And if we look from the criminal side, after committing a crime, they look up into two factors: the extent of punishment and the chances of getting caught. So to reduce the crimes, increasing the severity of the punishment or just giving them punishment does not stand as a solution. But we should change our focus from punishments to convictions and rehabilitations. And if we look at an example, the Society for Promotion of Youth and Masses is a Delhi-based NGO, and over there more than 300 children have been trained in vocational training, and over there 130 children have given training in food production, and rest of them have been employed in call centers. So I believe that juveniles shouldn't be given punishment on par with adults, as with appropriate treatment they can be turned into responsible adults. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilakia. That was an interesting perspective. So the next speaker which we have is Sara Ishika Dwara from the Hing House, and she'll be speaking for the motion.
Good afternoon, Honorable Speaker and the members of the Parliament. I'm here to speak for the motion. I say yes. Depending on the gravity of the crime, juveniles should be tried and treated as adults if the crimes they have committed are adulterous. It is reasonable that as a teenager, one is bound to make mistakes. To serve a jail term because of shoplifting in a mall is not what I mean. However, no matter how old one is, committing a crime such as rape or murder is definitely not done by the criminal without putting thought into it. I think a teenager who is able to kill or torture a human being should not be treated as a child and should not definitely be allowed to get away with it. By letting them get away with it, we allow them, we encourage them. By trying juveniles as adults, it could stop minors from committing more crimes or no crimes at all. Today's legal system, courts are lenient and outdated, which allows the criminals to take advantage of it, and because they know that they won't get into much trouble for it, because for committing those crimes. When juveniles are let off easily for a crime, they learn that they can commit the crime again, and in that way they end up being repeated offenders and could eventually move on to more violent crimes. A benefit of trying juveniles as adults is bringing justice not only to the criminal but also to the victims' families. No matter the age of the criminal, they will still feel threatened if they are allowed to be free. There should be no excuse. Youths who commit crimes are criminals, and to allow them to be on our streets and allow them to live as our neighbors, and most importantly, this allows them to commit more crimes. And so therefore I would like to conclude that juveniles who commit juveniles should not be allowed, juveniles should be tried and treated as adults and should be held accountable for their actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. The next speaker we have is Niharika Deori from Leavitt House, and she will be speaking against the motion. Niharika, you may start.
It is easier to build stranger children than to repair broken land. Good afternoon, everyone, honorable judges, and my dear friends. Today, I stand amidst you to air my views against the motion that juveniles should not be tried as adults. I would like to believe that there's a reason as to why adolescents are referred to as juveniles and why the entire legal system, probably the world over, instituted juvenile detention centers. They might not have understood the gravity of crime and needs a chance to reform. Sometimes juveniles commit crimes out of ignorance or peer pressure, and trying and treating them as adults could damage their future because they'll have criminal records and it will be a no-hope situation for them. There's an example where a teen committed suicide because he was put into an adult criminal system. Khalif Browder was the subject of a 2014 New Yorker feature. About 3 years he spent in jail on Rikers Island waiting to be put on trial for stealing backpacks. Browder tried to commit suicide at least 3 times while in jail, and in June 2015, 2 years after his release, he made another attempt and succeeded. All this shows that children are weak both mentally and physically. By having children tried and treated as adults, they'll most probably be sent to an adult facility, which they'll hamper mentally and not able to handle this, could further lead to self-destruction, or they could end up in gangs under the bad influence of adults. I strongly believe that wrong actions must be punished, but I also believe that right misses that can help the children grow, one needed rather than no hope kind of situation. Secondly, I would like to deliver that there are countries where children are almost treated as adults, but yet they have a high rate of juvenile crime. For example, in most of the states of USA, juvenile crimes are almost given strong punishment. Adults yet is estimated by law enforcement agencies that in 2019, 696,620 juveniles were arrested, which shows that sentencing them has never dropped the crime rate. Juvenile delinquency refers to disruptive or illegal behavior by children or teenagers. Hence, I strongly believe that right education and a chance to reform is the only way to reform juvenile criminals, and therefore, juveniles should not be treated as adults. Thank you.
Thank you, Niharika. So the next speaker we have is Udhav Saikia from Dhansiri House, and he'll be speaking for the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. I will be speaking for the motion. The juvenile justice system is inherently flawed. It is inefficient. I will start this with some stats. The rate of recidivism in boys was at 77%, and for girls, 72%. A study by Le Monde showed that 80% of juveniles were back in crime after release. This is in clear contrast to that of the adult system, where it is at 66% after 3 years of release. Juvenile crime rate has neither abated nor deterred since the last 104 years of the first Juvenile Court of India, established in 1914, Calcutta. Another factor to note is that juvenile detention centers are also a breeding ground for formation of gangs. So, does this mean that detention centers are in fact not only inefficient, but also a grooming ground for future criminals of our country? Now, what do we really want to achieve with the judicial system? Isn't it to bring right to the people in anguish, to their crippled lives? Isn't it to prevent the motivation for further crimes? When the juvenile justice system downright fails to achieve this, isn't the prospect of its existence itself detrimental to society and humanity? Now, let us take this example. In 1993, two 10-year-olds kidnapped a 2-year-old boy, took him to the rail tracks, beat him up with an iron bar, and left him to die on the tracks. Now, how were they sentenced? Only for 15 years of detention, albeit released after 8 years on parole. The juvenile justice system provides far more subtle sentences compared to the magnitude of the atrocities. However, the victims suffer throughout their lives. 25% of victims suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and also immense psychological stress and trauma throughout their lives. So, concluding this, juveniles should and must be tried as adults. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Udhav. Next speaker we have is Vishal Kumar from Lewis House, and he will be speaking against the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, Vishal.
Good morning, respected judges, teachers, and my fellow participants. I'm here against speaking against the motion, and I strongly believe that the root of a productive debate lies on facts, statistics, and logic. So first of all, I would like the judges and speakers to be made aware of the fact that only 0.5% crimes that are committed by juveniles are rapes, and 0.4% crimes that are committed by juveniles are murders. So, according to the National Crime Bureau, hence the number is very less, and I myself agree that rapes and murders accusers should not be tried in court, because if everyone is tried in court just for 0.5 and 0.4% of every population, then it is completely illogical, because it will be like giving 0 to 3,000 students because 3 have cheated in the exam. My second argument is that if now let me talk on facts. If all minors is tried and sent to jail, then it will be totally unconstitutional and a silent attack on democracy. First of all, I would like everybody to know that Article 24, 21A, 39, and 39E states that there are rights to free education, right to standard of living, and right to no work for children. If they are sent to jail, we all know they will get bad company and their influence will be wrong, and all the fundamental rights which are provided in the Constitution will be violated. So I want to make the point clear that it is totally unconstitutional, and we should never ever think of trying juveniles in court, because we have to change the whole Constitution if we do so. Now, I would like to contradict some of the opposition. One of the opposition said that Ajmal Kasab killed so many people in Mumbai. I would like to tell him that Ajmal Kasab is rarest of the cases. He was mind washed, and he was mind washed by professionals. And do you think every juvenile, every teenager is mind washed by professional? So again, this is completely illogical. And again, they said that everyone below 18 should be tried in court. Then then the law that states that below 18 no one can drive, why is that law there? That concludes that it is totally unconstitutional, and we have to change the whole Constitution, and it will not be correct if we do this. And so I conclude that no juvenile should be tried in courts. Thank you, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Vishal. That was a wonderful speech. The next we have is Abhilasha Sekia for Dikho House, and she'll be speaking for the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, Abhilasha.
Yeah. Excuse me, my webcam is actually not working. I'm trying to switch it on.
Yes, it's fine. You can speak without the camera. You're audible.
Okay. Greetings, Honorable Chairperson, judges, and my worthy opponents. Today, I take this opportunity to present my views for the motion. The prosecution and punishment of the juveniles should be in accordance with the gravity of the offense committed. Age alone should be no criteria to place an accused into the juvenile effect. The mental maturity and the abilities too should be taken into consideration. If not, then an adult who committed a crime unintentionally and was not mentally alert at that moment too should be given leniency, right? Now I understand that as a teenager, one is bound to make mistakes. I'm not saying that if a teenage boy or a girl enters a mall and shoplifts, try him and sentence him to a year in jail. Perhaps not. However, no matter how old one is, murder or rapes are not crimes that are committed without the culprit putting thought into it. Any teenager who kills and tortures another human being or commits rape should not be treated as a child, should not be allowed to get away with it. By letting them get away with it, we continue to encourage the rot that is slowly but surely eroding the world. Now, one of my previous speakers actually mentioned that they do not have a sound mind, but somebody who has awareness to be able to actually rape or murder someone, you don't see that person old enough to bear the consequences for their act. Now, we might talk about how the juveniles have been deprived of hope. Well, in this case, we are solely considering from the perspective of the criminals. We should also regard the perspective of the plaintiffs that were actually harmed in the crimes. When the juveniles commit crimes against them, their hopes are deprived as well, and rights are also being deprived of them. And then they lead the rest of their lives with trauma, and that is only if they manage to survive. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, there are so many cases in which adolescents abuse their right as a juvenile to commit crimes because they already know they already have it in their minds that they will not be punished in the same way, in the same severeness as they would have been punished if they were adults. As a result, this can cause a vicious cycle that can affect them and society as a crime is always a crime, especially when we're talking about heinous crimes that are utterly serious. We should focus on preventing and consider the social benefit cost and the numerical need of criminals. With that, I'm going to conclude my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhilasha. So with this, we come to the end as all the 16 participants from the 4 houses have spoken. I would like to again call up Tanmay Sharma from the House to give a conclusion to the debate for the whole House.
Gentlemen, according to the Human Resource Development Report, overall who received treatment showed an average 14% decrease in recidivism. This result, while not enormous, was positive, statistically significant, and large enough to be meaningful. The Indian Journal of Research, headed by Dr. K. Kaur of Delhi University, states that we have the provision of rehabilitation and reintegration of juvenile in conflict with law with reference to adoption and foster care under the Indian Juvenile System Care to give a chance to those minors for a better life. I would like to conclude my words by the statings of the former First Lady of the United States, Nancy Reagan, 51 years ago. I think it's important for us as a society to remember that the youth within juvenile justice systems are most of the time youths who simply have not had the right mentors and supporters around them because of circumstances beyond their control. Thank you and have a great day ahead, everyone.
Thank you, Tanmay. So with this, we come to the end of the participant speech. I would like to thank everyone for putting up their views on such a controversial topic. And with this, I would like to hand over to Sushmita ma'am.
Thank you, all the participants. Thank you, Amrita. But before I venture further, may I request you, Amrita, to state your views about the topic? as the chairperson.
Okay, ma'am. So today's topic for the debate was should juveniles should be tried and treated as adults. So as we have already seen, this is a topic which divides people among many views. A lot of you told that they should be treated. A lot of you told that they should not be treated, and there were definitely quite some strong points. In a personal opinion, I feel that like all some speakers have already mentioned that juveniles are people who are adolescents who are below the 18 years of age, but they do commit such crimes which are at par with more of the adults. For example, we can see the Nirbhaya rape case. So here, one of the accused was a juvenile. And with this case, the parliament had also passed a lot of acts regarding the whole issue. So we see that it is not always necessary that such people are always influenced by others, and that's why they commit crimes. Because people can influence you. This is definitely very evident, because also an adolescence is such an age. We all are going through that period. It is very easy to get pressured or influenced by anyone of our age or our seniors or adults. However, every person does have a rational mind, and doing a crime or something like a robbery or theft is okay to a certain extent. It is definitely not legal, but it is okay to a certain extent. However, when a person, doesn't matter it is an individual as a juvenile or it is an individual as an adult, commits heinous crimes like rapes and murders someone's and such things, it is definitely not acceptable, and it should not be acceptable in any part of the world. So with this, I feel that juveniles should be tried and treated as adults, but only in certain cases, and proper laws should be made both at the national level and the international level as well. So that's it now.
Thank you, Amrita. I can see that it's the nature of the crime that should be taken into account. Well, may I now request our headmistress, ma'am, to say a few words regarding the topic?
Good afternoon to everyone once again. And first of all, I congratulate Pinky Madam for organizing this inter-house debate. And I think so this is a success because everybody could participate and we could have a online debate competition. And at least this is one platform where we could engage the children. So I'm happy to see that so many participants have participated, and from each house there are 4 participants. Congratulations, and all of you have done your best. That is what I can see. You have done your research, you have come up with a lot of data, and really you have put us into a mind. It is swaying now. Should be juveniles, they should be treated as adult or not? So this is you have really made us think and ponder upon the issue. But what I feel is like, as I totally agree with Amrita actually. Because there are certain cases where certain times youth make mistakes, but then they should not be. We have to categorize this. This is where the law has to come in. Certain crimes have to be treated as an adult. But in certain, like for example, shoplifting and all those things can be considered in a juvenile and they can be reformed. Yes, reformation is required, and we have to look into the background and other things of that particular person also. And as a result, we find that there are certain crimes, as it has been saying for the Nirbhaya case, and where the victim had to suffer a long period, the parents are still suffering. So we find that in that case, what to do? And these certain crimes are there where the child, we cannot say as a child he's a child, so he has committed the mistake. They are also now, as an adult, you people are also sitting here and addressing the issue. So as an adult, you people know what is right and what is wrong. And as some of you have given examples where 2 girls have committed went on to murder just for fun. So if that is the case, that means somewhere down the line we have to treat them as adult. So there is a sway. I'm not completely in favor of it or against it, but yes, certain laws have to be firm enough to bring down these cases. And more than me, I think it's Rashmi madam who can give a better view about the whole picture. But then I like to first thank everyone, and then I like to appreciate everyone for participating in this competition. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to judge this, and I think so it's wonderful to listen to so many of you, and there are so many new participants. That is the best part of it. I'm happy to see there are new participants who have come up, and some of them are old, but who have, improved on themselves. That's the best part. And this is what we are looking for, the improvement in you. And it's really wonderful. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pinky Madam. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh, Shushmita Madam, she's the chairperson. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Nanu ma'am. I'd now like to come to Rashmi ma'am to enlighten us about the whole affair of the juvenile thing. Rashmi ma'am, please. The floor is
Thank
yours.
you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Pinky ma'am, it was a very wonderful session, I could say, and so wonderful to listen to this children. And yesterday when you have called me for invitation of this topic, I asked you like, who has given this topic? Actually, this is a very wonderful topic and need of an hour. And I'm very happy that all the children have researched a lot on this. Who has spoken? I remember Aditya has spoken like at this stage, the adolescents like have not yet developed their hormonal balance of thinking about what is right and what is wrong. Okay, exactly. And then Elika has also spoke about very important thing about rehabilitations and all. Right. I would like to ask a query to all the participants sitting here. Okay. What is the age for trial for juvenile delinquency for boys? Who can answer? Do you know there's a difference of age in between boys and girls? Like girls have a different age for this juvenile act and the girls have different, girls and boys. Who can answer? Anyone can.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, if I'm not wrong, for the boys it is considered 16 and for the girl it is 18.
Excellent, Aditya. Yes, very true. Okay, for girls it is 18 and for boys it is 16. Okay, then you might be thinking, why is this difference? Okay, even we have this question for our government, for our Justice Department. Okay, but this is the fact, like the boys get mature at 21 and girls mature at 18. So maybe the balancing has been done in that way. Okay. Like someone has said rightly, the Juvenile Justice Act of 2000 was amended in 2015 because in 2016, the 17-year-old boy was booked for murder of the 3-year-old neighbor in Mumbai. But at the last moment, during 2015, the trial was going on. So they have told that it should not be acted as retributive, but act as an reformative. So again, someone has mentioned about the Nirbhaya case, like they started in 2014 when the 17-year-old boy was booked for this Nirbhaya case. And that's how the juvenile case have been, the Juvenile Act has been amended many a times. And still people are working on it for the rehabilitation purpose. And someone has said about like only the poor children or the children who have problem with the financial status and social background problem, they are into it. No, in fact, the case says that now the record says that the children who have all the facilities and resources, they are into more of this Juvenile Act. Okay. So we need to work, like our school is the base, our home is the base where we can teach our children to distinguish between what is right, what is wrong. And someone has correctly said during the debate that we have to give them right to think as an adult. Okay, we have to teach them how to think properly, how to give, how to solve their problems in a different way. Okay, and rehabilitation process is there for, like I have been to these juvenile homes, where remand homes we say, where the children have been kept, and I have seen them different procedures they are following to reform their life. Yeah, for the heinous crime, I can't say that I am for it, but yeah, there is always an area of improvement. We always can help the children. because till the age of 18, as you people are still with, especially in India, right? We don't leave our children even after 25 age. Do we? No. You stay with your parents almost half of your life, right? So we need to work on it, and India is supposed to be work more on it now. And we are fortunate that we Indians have such a good culture where we teach our children in our tradition, in our custom to respect, to love. Okay, so we feel that there is always a chance of improvement on this Juvenile Act. Thank you so much. And it was a wonderful session. Thank you. Wonderful listening to you all.
Thank you so much, Rashmi ma'am. It was really enlightening about the amendment and everything. And I think when you said about the facilities being given to children and yet the number is high, it reminds me of the Rian International matter that had happened, the crime at Rian International, Delhi. The child came from a good family, the one who committed the murder. So it's actually, it's all in the mind. Of course, yes, that again does not negate the fact that no person is born a criminal. It's circumstantial situations that turn a person into a criminal. With that, we come to the end of the debate competition today, inter-house debate competition. I think it was a wonderful competition, considering the constraints that we are in. Now, I would like to hand over the entire session to Pinky ma'am to close it. Over to you, Pinky ma'am.
Thank you, Sushmita ma'am. It was nice hearing to all the participants, and really good to see that each and every student have prepared so well, spoke so well. It was a really good session. Thank you, children, for participating, and thank you, children, for showing so much of enthusiasm in being a part of this entire event. So I'll extend my thanks, grateful thanks to Lonu ma'am and Rashmi ma'am, who helped us to do the judgment for today. And children, as you know, we are on an online mode, getting the paper, totaling it, and finally deciding on the result. It will take us some time. So we will discuss, declare the results on Monday. Okay, after the class, 12 o'clock, your class teachers will post the result in your WhatsApp group. That is how we are going to declare the result. So at least wait till Monday so that we can decide on the result. And also two things we are going to declare. One is the best house and the second is the best speaker. Okay. Thank you. Thank you everyone for being a part of this wonderful session. And I also like to thank all the house in charges and yes, Pratna ma'am also, especially for joining this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really good to hear everyone.
That's true. Okay, thank you everyone. We will close down the meeting here.
Yeah.
See you again. We'll have a few more sessions, similar kind of sessions in future.
We should have more.
Yeah. Thank you.